Operation Sindoor stands as a decisive demonstration of India's ability to conduct multi-domain operations in the modern age, an environment we have recognized as a complex adaptive system. In Operation Sindoor, the speed, reach, and flexibility of aerospace power enabled not just incremental progress, but rapid non-linear jumps akin to the random jumps in a fitness landscape. In Operation Sindoor, the forces achieved a unified combat effect that was not simply additive, rather it was an immediate outcome of networked interactions spanning air, land, sea, space, and cyber, supported by resilient command and control frameworks, particularly through the Indian Air Force's integrated air command and control system. This integration enabled real-time data fusion, rapid decision-making, and synchronized application of force, the very essence of MDO. Air and space assets served as the system's random jump catalysts, deployed not only for kinetic effect, but also for persistent surveillance, intelligence, and precision targeting. These capabilities enabled large, rapid, and coordinated shifts across the operational landscape, rather than incremental advances. The Indian Army's contribution through strikes using unmanned systems as well as aerial ISR and air defense systems, and the Indian Navy's power projection from the sea with INS Vikrant exemplified the forces leveraging the embedded aerospace dimension within their operations. Finally, space-based ISR underpinned the entire campaign, delivering critical geospatial intelligence for target verification and mission assessment. Critically, Operation Sindoor was not just a military success, but a decisive non-linear shift in India's strategic posture. Coordinated information operations ensured we not only countered adversaries' disinformation, but also crafted our own dominant narrative, projecting calibrated resilience and reinforcing India's strategic posture before the international community. Most importantly, Operation Sindoor moved aerospace power from the periphery to the center of Indian strategic thinking. Where previous approaches relied on slow adaptation, Operation Sindoor demonstrated the potential jump of aerospace-enabled MDO. However, this confidence in using aerospace power offensively marks a departure from India's earlier approach. To appreciate how far we have come, it is instructive to contextualize India's evolving use of aerospace power over the years. Historically, a persistent concern that air power might trigger rapid and uncontrollable escalation influenced India's strategic calculus. This perception, compounded by technological limitations, meant that air power was often employed cautiously and within tightly defined parameters. During the 1947-48 war, air power played a crucial supporting role, while in the 1965 war, the IAF flew extensively but resisted deep penetration strikes after the initial days. In both cases, despite its pivotal role in the operations, air power was employed with measured restraint. Most strikingly, in the 1962 conflict, offensive air power was withheld altogether due to the concerns about escalation risks. It was only in the 1971 war that Indian air power was unleashed decisively. However, it proved to be an exception as the underlying caution persisted, as became evident during the 1999 Kargil conflict, which was shaped by the nuclear overhang and characterized by restrictive rules of engagement due to concerns of uncontrolled escalation. In the 2 decades after Kargil, India's military responses to major provocations, including the 2001 Parliament attack and the 2008 Mumbai attacks, were constrained by a combination of strategic caution and technological limitations. At that time, the absence of precision standoff munitions, robust space-based ISR, and integrated command networks meant that the options for proportionate and controlled aerospace response were limited. Pakistan's nuclear posture further narrowed India's operational space, complicating the challenge of punishing cross-border terrorism without breaching the nuclear red lines. While punitive military measures consisting of large-scale ground offensives risked crossing the so-called space threshold, targeted naval blockades, meanwhile, carried the danger of crossing Pakistan's economic red lines, leaving India with few palatable options for imposing meaningful costs on cross-border terrorism. Of late, the emergence of precision aerospace capabilities and real-time ISR has begun to address these challenges. The Balakot airstrike in 2019 marked a watershed, demonstrating India's ability to conduct controlled, precise operations well below the nuclear threshold, thus starting to dispel the earlier escalation anxieties. In this historical progression, the recently conducted Op Sindoor is indeed revolutionary, not just for its technical execution, but for the shift in mindset it represents. Fast, precise, and scalable, the airstrikes inflicted significant costs on Pakistan within minutes and enabled swift de-escalation, reshaping the escalation dynamics entirely. Today, aerospace power does not ignore the adversary's nuclear threshold. Rather, it leverages capabilities like precision and reach to carve out a zone for conventional response while avoiding the escalation into nuclear domain. So we have finally realized that aerospace power is not escalatory, but the best tool for escalation control. As Air Commodore Jasdeep Singh prophesied over a decade ago, highly calibrated escalation as well as disengagement control is possible with the use of air power. Aerospace power's ability for escalation control is a fundamental characteristic that has long been recognized in Western military doctrines. It is seen as relatively less escalatory than surface force deployments, owing to its operational flexibility and lower political sensitivity. An example of this outlook was the limited precision airstrikes by the United States and its allies in response to chemical weapons attacks in Syria in 2017 and 18. They targeted Syrian military and chemical facilities aimed at punishing and deterring further attacks, signaling resolve while deliberately avoiding wider military escalation. As the ongoing Russia-Ukraine conflict starkly demonstrates, the deployment of land forces today inevitably demands not only occupation but also a sustained commitment, an approach that often carries substantial political and economic costs. Naval blockades in the South China Sea, on the other hand, signal the onset of drawn-out confrontations that risk ceding the strategic initiative. By contrast, aerospace power is visible, rapid, and scalable. It allows strategic signaling without open-ended commitment, as shown in the recent Israel-Iran conflict. It offers policymakers precision tools to communicate with intent without deep entanglement. Aerospace power's unique ability to control escalation under a nuclear shadow makes it the most effective instrument for both deterrence and victory in war. At its core, deterrence seeks to prevent adversary action by presenting a credible threat of unacceptable costs. Aerospace power allows us to climb the escalation ladder, moving to coercive posturing, and if required, the use of limited force to set a higher level of deterrence, as was evident during Op Sindoor. This demands speed, precision, and above all, control, qualities where aerospace power excels. As noted by scholars Byman and Waxman in their book, Dynamics of Coercion, it offers a low-cost, low-commitment option capable of measured effects without binding involvement. This allows a state to signal strength and impose costs on an adversary, yet retain the strategic agility to de-escalate, adjust intensity, or even disengage altogether, characteristics that are uniquely valuable to operate under the shadow of nuclear deterrence. Aerospace power is equipped with precision standoff weapons and advanced ISR platforms that create decision dilemmas in the adversary's minds. It enables surgical strikes that focus on clear strategic messaging while carefully managing escalation. By controlling the tempo, delivering sharp, punitive blows, and then withdrawing, it preserves the strategic initiative. For example, the recently pre-informed air attacks on US bases in Qatar by Iran served the dual purpose of signaling intent and satisfying domestic compulsions while managing escalation effectively. However, when deterrence fails, the mission shifts to achieving victory. Victory, as strategists have long maintained, means accomplishing clear policy objectives. This can range from limited aims, such as restoring the status quo in Kargil in 1999, to decisive outcomes like the 1971 war, where air dominance in the East was instrumental in the creation of Bangladesh. While successful deterrence prevents adversary action through credible capability and signaling, victory in war requires achieving targeted objectives while controlling escalation. Here too, aerospace power, with its unique attributes, has proven indispensable. It allows a nation to avoid the brutal, indecisive wars of attrition that characterized much of the 20th century's land warfare. A striking example is the 1999 Kosovo campaign, where NATO air power, without committing Allied ground troops, compelled Serbia to concede and withdraw, achieving strategic objectives at minimal political and economic costs. This contrasts sharply with Russia's ground invasion of Chechnya in the First Chechen War that turned into a bloody quagmire.